Hey friends, tonight we're diving headfirst into the most eyebrow-raising, rumor-mill churning, wait, that's actually in the Bible, territory, biblical urban legends that turned out to be true. Yes, we're talking about the stories your Sunday school teacher skipped, the tales your grandma whispered about after 3 cups of decaf, and the kind of legends that make you wonder if ancient Israelites were just trolling us from the past. So before you get too cozy, do me a favor. Like this video and subscribe, but only if you're actually a believer. In good stories, that is. Drop a comment telling me which biblical rumor you always thought was just a wild campfire tale. Or, just tell me what snack you're eating in bed right now. I won't judge, unless it's raisins. Now, dim those lights, crank up that fan for some holy white noise, and get comfortable. Maybe tuck your feet in, just in case there's a stray locust or two lurking under the covers. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered what it was like to live in a world where your neighbor might turn into a pillar of salt if she looked over her shoulder? Or where a talking donkey could ruin your commute? Did people really wrestle angels? Or was that just a weird fever dream after too much manna? What did you do if your beard caught fire at the burning bush? And how many times did someone try to walk on water before realizing it's not a group activity? Congratulations. You've just woken up in the biblical world, somewhere between 1500 BC and 33 AD. Your sandals are missing, your breakfast is suspiciously crunchy, and your neighbor is building a boat in his backyard for reasons he refuses to explain. Good luck. You're trudging out of Sodom, clutching your family's valuables and trying not to inhale too much brimstone. The instructions are clear. Don't look back. But curiosity is a powerful thing, especially when your entire city is being flambéed behind you. Suddenly, your wife glances over her shoulder, and poof, she's a human salt lick. You can't make this up. Or can you? Let's talk about the logistics of this escape. It's not a leisurely stroll through the park. You're hustling out of town at sunrise, the sky behind you glowing with the kind of orange that says, "This is not a drill." The air is thick with smoke, your sandals are melting, and your neighbor's goat is making noises that sound suspiciously like regret. You're clutching a sack of unleavened bread, a family heirloom or two, and the world's most nervous children. The only thing missing is a travel mug of coffee, but caffeine hasn't been invented yet. Instead, you're running on pure adrenaline and the faint hope that you'll find a decent breakfast somewhere that isn't on fire. The instructions from the angels were simple. Don't look back. Not don't look back unless you hear something interesting, or don't look back unless you want to check if your house is still standing. No, it's just don't look back. But let's be honest, who among us hasn't peeked at a car crash or checked the oven one more time after leaving the house? Lot's wife was only human. Maybe she wanted to see if her favorite pottery survived. Maybe she was worried she'd left the stove on. Or maybe she just wanted to see if the neighbor's party was finally over. Whatever the reason, she turns and instantly becomes the world's first and last pillar of salt. Now, let's pause and imagine the sensory experience. The ground is hot and gritty under your feet. Every breath tastes like burnt toast, and the only soundtrack is the distant roar of destruction and the occasional angelic "keep moving." Your robe is sticking to your back, your hair smells like a campfire, and your spouse, well, she's suddenly very quiet. You glance over, and there she is, a glistening, crystalline monument to the dangers of curiosity. You can't even make eye contact because, well, she doesn't have eyes anymore. Just a lot of sodium chloride. Modern comparison time. This is like ignoring your GPS when it says turn left and instead driving straight into a lake. Or more accurately, it's like being told not to check your ex's Instagram and then accidentally liking a photo from 2012. The consequences are immediate, public, and deeply embarrassing. Lot's wife is now a cautionary tale, a literal salt statue on the side of the escape route. You can't even use her for seasoning, too much trauma. As you keep moving, you realize there's no time for mourning. The city is gone, your wife is a mineral deposit, and you're now a single dad with 2 traumatized daughters and a very awkward story to tell at family reunions. The lesson: sometimes following directions is more important than satisfying your curiosity. Also, always pack extra water, because you're going to need it for the world's saltiest memorial. You can't make this up, but apparently, God can. Let's talk about home improvement, biblical style. You wake up one morning, stretch, and realize the sky's looking a little ominous. The clouds are gathering like they've got a group chat, and you're not invited. God's voice booms in your head, and instead of clean your room, he says, build a boat, a big one, trust me. You step outside, and there it is, your backyard, now a construction zone. You're holding blueprints that look suspiciously like IKEA instructions, except there's no Allen wrench, and the only thing labelled is gopher wood. You're not even sure what gopher wood is. Is it from a gopher? Do you have to catch one first? You decide to wing it. The neighbours are peeking over the fence, whispering, "Is Noah okay? Should we call someone?" You wave, trying to look casual while hauling planks the size of a camel. You've got splinters in places you didn't know could get splinters. Your wife is inside, making snacks for the animals you haven't even met yet. She's already over it. Now, about those animals. You're supposed to collect 2 of every kind. The dogs show up first, tails wagging, ready to help. The cats arrive late, look around, and immediately start plotting a coup. The sheep are nervous, the goats are eating your blueprints, and the ostriches are just there, staring at you with those judgmental eyes. You try to keep everyone organized, but it's like running a daycare for a zoo during a thunderstorm. The rain starts as a drizzle, then a downpour, then a full-on biblical monsoon. You're hammering away, soaked to the bone, while your neighbor yells, "Nice boat, Noah. Planning a cruise." You want to respond, but your mouth is full of nails and existential dread. Inside the ark, it's chaos. The elephants are arguing over bunk beds. The monkeys have discovered the concept of indoor plumbing. Bad news. And the skunks are, well, you know. You're rationing food, negotiating peace treaties between predators and prey, and wondering if you should have just moved to higher ground instead. At night, you lie awake, listening to the rain drum on the roof and the sound of 1,000 animals snoring, mooing, and occasionally plotting your demise. You think about your old life, quiet, predictable, dry. You wonder if you'll ever see sunlight again, or if you'll spend eternity as the world's first zookeeper. But hey, at least you'll have a great story for the grandkids. Back in my day, we didn't have raincoats. We had arks. And if you think your HOA is strict, try explaining a floating zoo to your neighbors. You can't make this up. But apparently, someone did. Let's talk about running away. Maybe you've tried it, skipped out on a meeting, dodged a family reunion, or accidentally left your phone on airplane mode for a weekend. But you take avoidance to a biblical level. God gives you a job, go to Nineveh and deliver a message, and you immediately book the first boat in the opposite direction. Classic. You're on a ship, pretending to be just another tourist, when suddenly the sky goes full apocalypse. Thunder, lightning, waves that make you wish you'd packed adult diapers. The sailors are panicking, tossing cargo overboard, and drawing lots to see whose fault this is. Spoiler, it's yours. You admit it, and before you can say life jacket, you're tossed into the sea like yesterday's leftovers. You're sinking, thinking this is the end when, gulp, you're swallowed whole by a giant fish. Not a cute cartoon whale, but a real, slimy, cavernous sea monster with questionable hygiene. The inside is, let's call it, rustic. The walls are squishy, the lighting is non-existent, and the air smells like a tuna melt left in the sun. You're not sure if you're supposed to pray or ask for room service. Every sound is amplified. The gurgle of digestive juices, the distant echo of whale song, the occasional burp that shakes your entire world. You try to get comfortable, but the floor keeps shifting, and you're pretty sure you just sat on a crab. There's no Wi-Fi, no snacks, and the only entertainment is replaying your life choices in your head. It's like a silent meditation retreat, but with more existential dread and less kombucha. Time passes slowly in the belly suite. You lose track of hours, then days. You pray. You promise to do better. You negotiate with God like you're haggling at a flea market. If you get me out of here, I'll go to Nineveh. I'll even tip the camel driver. I'll never skip church again. You're bargaining for your life, and for the first time, you actually mean it. You wonder what your friends are doing. Are they worried? Did they keep your seat at the synagogue? Is anyone feeding your houseplants? You'd give anything for a shower, a change of clothes, or even a breath mint. But mostly, you just want out. Suddenly, the fish gets a stomachache. You feel yourself rising, spinning, and then, whoosh, you're spat out onto the beach like a soggy, slightly traumatized sardine. You're covered in seaweed, sand, and shame. The sun is blinding, and you're pretty sure you'll never eat sushi again. But here's the kicker. You still have to go to work. God's message hasn't changed, and neither has your to-do list. You dust yourself off, try to ignore the seagulls laughing at you, and start walking toward Nineveh, smelling like a seafood platter and hoping nobody recognizes you. So next time you're tempted to run from your problems, remember, you could end up as the main course in the world's first underwater Airbnb, with nothing but your regrets and a very judgmental fish for company. And yes, you still have to go to work on Monday. Let's talk about military strategy, ancient edition. You wake up in your tent, stretch, and realize you're about to participate in the world's most confusing siege. Forget battering rams, ladders, or even a mildly threatening letter. No, today's plan involves cardio, woodwinds, and a lot of faith. The sun is barely up, and already you're lacing up your sandals, which, let's be honest, have seen better days. The air is thick with anticipation and the faint aroma of last night's unleavened bread. You shuffle out with the rest of the Israelites, rubbing sleep from your eyes, and line up behind the priests. They're carrying the Ark of the Covenant, basically the ancient version of a VIP pass, and you're just hoping you don't trip over your own feet. The city of Jericho looms ahead, its walls tall, intimidating, and definitely not designed to be brought down by a marching band. The locals are peeking over the ramparts, probably placing bets on how long you'll last before giving up and going home. You, meanwhile, are clutching a ram's horn and praying nobody notices you haven't practiced your scales since the Exodus. The signal is given. You start walking. One lap around the city. No talking, no shouting, just the awkward squeak of sandals and the occasional off-key trumpet blast. It's less military intimidation and more awkward parade that forgot the floats. By the third day, your calves are burning, and you're starting to wonder if Joshua is just trolling everyone. Let's pause for a second. Imagine explaining this to your grandkids. Back in my day, we conquered cities with cardio and jazz hands. It's like trying to win a football game by forming a conga line. But you keep going because, well, everyone else is, and peer pressure is eternal. On the 7th day, things get weird. You're told to march around the city 7 times. By lap 5, you're delirious. Your trumpet is making noises that would scare livestock, and you're pretty sure you've walked a marathon. Then, suddenly, the signal. Blast the trumpets and shout as loud as you can. You give it everything you've got. The noise is deafening, part battle cry, part, I really need a nap. And then, against all logic, the walls start to shake. Stones tumble, dust fills the air, and the city's defenses collapse like a badly stacked pile of matzah. You stand there, horn in hand, covered in dust, and realize you've just witnessed the world's first and only successful siege by marching band. Take that, physics. And somewhere, deep down, you know you'll never complain about choir practice again. Because sometimes, faith looks like walking in circles, playing your heart out, and trusting that God's playlist is better than yours. Breakfast time in the wilderness. You wake up to find the ground covered in something. It's white, flaky, and tastes like honey if you squint. Is it food? Is it a prank? Either way, it's what's for dinner. Again, let's set the scene. You're camping in the Sinai Desert, which is less glamping and more survival reality show, but with more sand in your shoes. You've been wandering for weeks. Your stomach is growling louder than a shofar at sunrise, and the only thing you want is a decent meal. Suddenly, you step outside your tent and see the ground blanketed in a mysterious substance. It's not snow, it's not confetti, and it's definitely not gluten-free. The elders call it manna, which is ancient Hebrew for what is it, because nobody actually knows. You crouch down, poke at it, and take a tentative nibble. It's fine. Not bad, not great, just sort of there. If you close your eyes and really use your imagination, it tastes a little like honey wafers. If you open your eyes and remember you haven't had a real pastry in months, it tastes like survival. The texture is somewhere between a rice cake and a packing peanut, and it dissolves on your tongue with the enthusiasm of a food that knows you have no other options. Let's talk about the daily routine. Every morning, you and your fellow Israelites shuffle out in your best bathrobes, baskets in hand, to gather your daily quota of manna. It's a bit like a farmer's market, if the only thing for sale was mystery flakes and the vendors were all equally confused. You can't hoard it. If you try to save some for tomorrow, it turns into maggot soup overnight. So you eat what you gather and hope for a miracle side dish. Spoiler, there isn't one. Modern comparison. Imagine waking up every day to find your front yard covered in free breakfast cereal. But it's always the same flavor, and the box just says food. No variety packs, no marshmallows, just endless, unbranded sustenance. You'd think you'd get creative. Maybe manna pancakes, manna casserole, manna flambe. But after a few weeks, even the most enthusiastic home chef is out of ideas. You start to fantasize about leeks and onions, and you trade your last sandal for a slice of garlic bread. The sensory experience is underwhelming. The air is crisp, the sun is rising, and you're surrounded by a sea of white flakes that crunch underfoot like stale potato chips. The smell is faintly sweet, but mostly neutral, like the world's least offensive air freshener. You gather your portion, shake the sand out of your robe, and try not to think about how many more mornings you'll be eating the same thing. And yet, there's something miraculous about it. You're in the middle of nowhere, and every day breakfast just appears. No hunting, no foraging, no awkward conversations with the neighbour about borrowing a cup of flour. Just manna, falling from the sky like God's own version of meal delivery. Sure, it's repetitive, but it's also reliable. A daily reminder that even in the wilderness, you're not forgotten. So you eat your manna, say a quick prayer of thanks, and try not to grumble too loudly. Because as far as biblical urban legends go, this one is true. And honestly, it's better than nothing. Even if it does taste a little like cardboard with a hint of hope. You're on a road trip and your donkey suddenly starts giving you life advice. At first, you think you're dehydrated. But no, your ride is actually arguing with you about directions. Siri, eat your heart out. Let's set the scene. It's early morning, and you're Balaam, a prophet for hire with a reputation for mystical consulting and questionable decision-making. You've been summoned by a nervous king who wants you to curse an entire nation. Your travel arrangements: a sturdy, slightly opinionated donkey, no chariot, no camel, just you and your four-legged Uber plodding along a dusty, pothole-ridden road. The sun is already beating down, your water skin is suspiciously light, and you're pretty sure you forgot to pack snacks. The only thing keeping you company is the rhythmic clop-clop of hooves and the occasional fly that refuses to respect personal boundaries. Now, here's where things get weird. Your donkey, usually the strong, silent type, suddenly veers off the road and into a field. You're not thrilled. You give her a little encouragement, biblical for gentle whack, and try to steer her back. But she's having none of it. Next, she crushes your foot against a wall, which is not the kind of foot massage you were hoping for. You're getting frustrated, muttering under your breath, and wondering if you should have sprung for the camel upgrade. Then, the donkey just sits down, in the middle of the road, refuses to budge. You're about to lose your profit license over this when, out of nowhere, your donkey turns her head and starts talking. Not braying, not making donkey noises. She's actually speaking, and she's not mincing words. "Why are you hitting me? Haven't I always been a good donkey?" she asks, with the tone of someone who's been holding in her grievances since the Exodus. Let's pause for a sensory check. The air is thick with dust and donkey breath. Your foot is throbbing, your pride is bruised, and now you're having a full-blown argument with your transportation. You look around, hoping nobody's filming this for ancient TikTok. But no, it's just you, your donkey, and, oh right, a sword-wielding angel standing in the road, invisible until now. Turns out, your donkey saw the angel the whole time and was just trying to save your life. Who's the wise one now? Modern comparison. This is like your car refusing to start. Then suddenly the dashboard lights up and says, "Maybe you should rethink this trip, buddy." Or like your GPS rerouting you away from traffic, and you yelling at it, only to find out there's a sinkhole ahead. Except in this case, your GPS has big ears and a tail. You finally realize your donkey has been the real MVP all along. The angel gives you a stern talking to, your donkey gets a well-deserved snack, and you have to explain to everyone why you're late and why you're suddenly so respectful to livestock. The moral. Sometimes the best advice comes from the most unexpected places. And if your ride ever starts talking, maybe, just maybe, listen before you hit recalculate. You refuse to bow to a golden statue, and now you're getting tossed into a furnace. The good news, you don't even break a sweat. The bad news, your clothes now smell like barbecue forever. Let's set the scene. Babylon, the original city that never sleeps, mostly because the king keeps inventing new ways to keep everyone on their toes. Nebuchadnezzar, a man with a flair for the dramatic, has just unveiled his latest art project, a 90-foot-tall golden statue. It's shiny, it's imposing, and it's the ancient equivalent of a like and subscribe button, except if you don't, you get incinerated. The music starts, the crowd bows, and you, Shadrach, Meshach, or Abednego, are standing there like someone who forgot the choreography at a flash mob. Cue the tattletales. The king's advisors, who have clearly never heard of minding their own business, rush to report your lack of enthusiasm. Nebuchadnezzar is not amused. He calls you in, gives you one last chance to bow, and you politely decline. You're not being difficult. You just don't worship statues, no matter how much gold leaf is involved. The king's face turns a shade of red that would make a tomato jealous. He orders the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual, because apparently regular fire just isn't dramatic enough for this crowd. Now, let's talk about the sensory experience. You're being marched toward a furnace so hot that the guards tossing you in are instantly vaporized. The air shimmers with heat. Your eyebrows are in mortal danger, and you're pretty sure your sandals are about to become a permanent part of your feet. The smell is a mix of roasting meat, burning oil, and the faint whiff of royal overreaction. You're shoved inside, and you brace yourself for the world's shortest spa day. But then, nothing. No pain, no panic, not even a sunburn. You look around, and your friends are just as confused as you are. Your robes are intact, your hair is unsinged, and you're pretty sure you could roast marshmallows if you had any. Even stranger, there's a 4th figure in the furnace, someone who looks suspiciously divine, and definitely not on the guest list. You exchange awkward glances and try not to make any hot jokes. Meanwhile, outside, Nebuchadnezzar is losing his mind. He peers into the furnace, expecting to see 3 piles of ash, and instead finds you all hanging out like it's a sauna day at the local gym. He calls you out, and you step into the daylight, not even smelling like smoke. The crowd is stunned. The king is humbled. And you're just glad you didn't have to bow to a statue that looks like it was designed by someone with too much gold and not enough taste. Modern comparison. This is like refusing to update your phone, getting threatened with total system meltdown, and then discovering your device is actually fireproof. Or like walking into a hot yoga class, expecting to faint, and instead emerging with perfect hair and a new best friend, who may or may not be an angel. The punchline. Sometimes, standing up for what you believe in means walking through fire, and sometimes you come out the other side with a story so wild, nobody will ever believe it, and a wardrobe that smells like barbecue for the rest of your life. You're spending the night with a pride of lions, and you forgot the treats. Miraculously, you make it out without a scratch or a single hairball. Take that, Daniel Tiger. Let's set the scene. You're Daniel, a model citizen in Babylon, minding your own business, praying 3 times a day, and generally being the teacher's pet of the ancient world. The king likes you, your co-workers hate you, and suddenly you're the target of the world's pettiest HR complaint. The next thing you know, you're sentenced to spend the night in a den full of lions, not the plush, Instagrammable kind. The I haven't eaten in 3 days kind. The guards open the stone door and give you a little shove. The air inside is thick, like a mix of wet fur, old meat, and the unmistakable scent of I hope you brought a change of tunic. You hear the low rumble of lions waking up from their afternoon nap, and you realize you've just become the main course at the world's most exclusive dinner party. You try to make yourself comfortable, which is hard when your only seating options are rocks, bones, and the occasional tail. The lions circle, sizing you up. You try to look unappetizing. Maybe if you act like a salad, they'll lose interest. You hum a little tune, say a prayer, and try not to make eye contact with the one licking his chops. Modern comparison. This is like being locked overnight in a cat cafe, except all the cats are the size of minivans and none of them are interested in your Instagram followers. You forgot the treats, the laser pointer, and the catnip. All you've got is faith and a strong desire not to become a chew toy. Hours pass. The lions yawn, stretch, and, miracle of miracles, curl up beside you like oversized house cats. One uses your sandal as a pillow. Another purrs so loudly you think the walls might shake. You're not sure if you're dreaming or if you've just unlocked a new level of biblical chill. You whisper a thank you to God and maybe promise to never complain about your co-workers again. Meanwhile, outside, the king is pacing. He's worried. He liked you after all. At dawn, he rushes to the den, calls your name, and you answer, alive, unchewed, and only slightly traumatized. The guards open the door, and you step out, brushing lion fur off your robe and trying to look casual. Rough night, you say, but I've had worse. The lions, they go back to sleep, dreaming of a world where dinner isn't so prayerful. You can't make this up, but apparently God can. You're minding your own business, strolling along the dusty road with your protégé Elisha, probably discussing the finer points of prophetic fashion, camel hair, always in style, or maybe debating which miracle was the most impressive. Suddenly, the sky starts to shimmer, and you get the distinct feeling that something dramatic is about to happen. You know, more dramatic than the usual fire from heaven Tuesday. The wind picks up, not a gentle breeze, but a full-on, hair-whipping, robe-flapping gust that makes you wish you'd tied your sash tighter. Elisha's eyes are wide, and you're trying to play it cool. But let's be honest, nobody is ever really ready for a supernatural exit. Then, out of nowhere, a chariot of fire appears. Not a regular chariot, not even a fancy gold-plated one, but a literal flaming vehicle pulled by horses that are also on fire. It's like the heavens ordered a ride and forgot to turn off the special effects. There's no time to ask questions like, is this safe? Or, does this come with air conditioning? Because the chariot is barreling straight toward you. You barely have time to wave goodbye. Elisha is shouting, probably something like, don't forget to write, or can I have your staff? But you're already being swept up in a whirlwind, robes billowing, beards singeing at the edges, and sandals threatening to fly off. There's no ticket, no seatbelt, and definitely no "Are you Elijah?" sign. Just a one-way trip to the afterlife, express delivery. Let's pause and appreciate the sensory overload. The heat is intense. Think summer in the Sinai, but with more horsepower. The light is blinding, the roar is deafening, and the smell is somewhere between campfire and someone left the oven on. You're clutching the side of the chariot, hoping your last meal wasn't too heavy, and wondering if you should have left a note for the neighbors. Modern comparison? This is like getting picked up by a rideshare app, but instead of a Prius, it's a pyrotechnic spectacle that would make Elon Musk jealous. No surge pricing, no awkward small talk, just a direct route to glory. And you don't even have to tip. As you ascend, you catch one last glimpse of Elisha, who's now holding your cloak and looking both awestruck and slightly panicked. You hope he remembers to water your plants. The world below fades away, replaced by clouds, light, and the distinct feeling that you've just set a new standard for dramatic exits. So, next time you're stuck in traffic or waiting for your ride to show up, just remember, Elijah didn't need a ticket, a seatbelt, or even a reservation. He just got swept up in a chariot of fire straight to heaven. Eat your heart out, Elon Musk, and maybe keep an eye on the sky, just in case your ride home gets a little fiery. You're the strongest guy around, ripping lions apart with your bare hands, carrying city gates on your shoulders, and generally making everyone else's gym routine look like child's play. Your secret? Not protein shakes, not a killer workout plan, but your hair. That's right. Your luscious, uncut locks are the source of your superhuman strength. Move over, Marvel heroes. Samson did it first, and he didn't even need spandex. Let's rewind. You're a Nazirite, which means you've taken a vow. No wine, no touching dead things, and absolutely no haircuts. You're basically living the world's strictest summer camp rules. But you don't mind, because every time you flex, people gasp. You're a one-man army, a walking legend, and the Philistines are terrified of you. Life is good. Enter Delilah. She's charming, mysterious, and, let's be honest, way out of your league. The Philistines know they can't beat you in a fair fight, so they bribe Delilah to discover your secret. She tries everything: emotional, manipulation, guilt trips, and the ancient art of just tell me please. You resist at first, but love, or maybe just poor judgment, makes you vulnerable. Night after night, Delilah asks, "What makes you so strong?" You give her fake answers, new ropes, fresh bowstrings, weaving your hair into a loom. Each time, she tests your story, and each time you break free, leaving the Philistines looking like fools. But persistence pays off, and eventually, you spill the beans. It's my hair. Cut it, and I'm toast. Cue the world's most infamous haircut. You fall asleep in Delilah's lap, dreaming of heroic deeds and shampoo commercials. She calls in a barber, and snip, snip, snip. Your strength drains away with every lock that hits the floor. You wake up groggy, try to flex, and nothing. You're weaker than decaf coffee. The Philistines pounce, and suddenly, you're not the hero. You're the cautionary tale. Let's pause for a modern comparison. This is like Superman leaving his kryptonite out on the coffee table, or Samson trusting his hair to a stylist with a vendetta and a pair of rusty scissors. The moral: never underestimate the power of a bad haircut, or a partner with an agenda. The sensory experience is brutal. You feel the cold air on your scalp, the weight of your hair gone, and the crushing realization that you've been betrayed. The Philistines blind you, chain you up, and parade you around as their trophy. It's the ultimate fall from grace, all because you couldn't keep your secret or your hair safe. But here's the twist. Even at rock bottom, Samson's story isn't over. In his final act, hair starting to grow back, he prays for one last burst of strength. He brings down the Philistine temple, taking his enemies with him in a final dramatic mic drop. So next time you're tempted to trust someone with scissors and a grudge, remember Samson. Sometimes a bad hair day can change history, and not in a good way. You're a teenager with a slingshot, facing a giant who's been skipping leg day. One well-aimed rock later, and you're a legend. Take that, professional athletes. Let's set the scene. The Israelite and Philistine armies are squared off on opposite hills, with a valley in between. It's a classic standoff, and morale is low. Enter Goliath, a literal giant, decked out in armor, bellowing threats and flexing for the crowd. He's the ancient world's answer to a WWE villain. Loud, intimidating, and absolutely convinced nobody can take him down. Every morning, he struts out and shouts, "Send me your best." And every morning, the Israelites collectively decide, "Nope, not today." Meanwhile, you're David. Youngest in the family, part-time shepherd, full-time snack delivery boy. Your dad sends you to the battlefield with bread and cheese for your brothers, basically the world's first DoorDash order. You show up, see Goliath doing his daily trash talk, and wonder why nobody stepped up. Your brothers roll their eyes and tell you to go home. But you're not having it. You fought off lions and bears, or at least that's what you tell people. So what's one more oversized opponent? Let's talk gear. Goliath is rocking bronze armor, a massive spear, and a shield so big it needs its own handler. You've got a slingshot, 5 smooth stones, and a healthy dose of confidence. King Saul tries to loan you his armor, but it's way too big. Think kid in dad's suit jacket. So you ditch it and stick with what you know. The crowd is buzzing. The Philistines are placing bets. The Israelites are holding their breath. And Goliath is laughing so hard he nearly drops his spear. You step into the valley, pick your stone, and start swinging. Goliath mocks you, but you're focused. One quick prayer, one perfect shot, and wham! The stone hits Goliath right between the eyes. The giant wobbles, then crashes to the ground like a felled oak. Silence, then chaos. The Philistines can't believe it. The Israelites go wild. You, meanwhile, are suddenly the most popular guy in camp. No more sheep, duty for you. Now you're a national hero, the original underdog who took down the champ with nothing but skill, guts, and a little divine backup. Modern comparison? Imagine a high schooler walking onto the field during the Super Bowl, tossing a paper airplane and knocking out the star quarterback. Or a kid with a Nerf gun taking down a heavyweight boxer. It's the ultimate don't judge a book by its cover moment. The lesson? Sometimes all it takes is courage, creativity, and a willingness to face your giants, no matter how big they seem. And maybe, just maybe, a really good aim. Because legends aren't born in comfort zones. They're made in the valley with nothing but a slingshot and a dream. You're just trying to get through the week, but now your water's blood, your bread's full of locusts, and your neighbor's cow is looking nervous. Is this a divine message or just a really bad Monday? Let's set the scene. You're living in ancient Egypt, minding your own business, when suddenly the Nile turns into a river of blood. You go to fill your water jug and instead get something that looks like it belongs in a horror movie. You try not to panic, but the fish are floating, the smell is apocalyptic, and you're starting to wonder if you should have moved to Canaan when you had the chance. Before you can process the first disaster, here come the frogs. Not a few cute ones hopping around the garden. No, we're talking amphibian invasion. Frogs in your bed, frogs in your oven, frogs in your shoes. You can't take a step without squishing something that croaks. The kids think it's hilarious for about 5 minutes. Then everyone's sleep deprived and considering a strict no pets policy. Just when you think it can't get worse, the lice arrive. Tiny, itchy, and everywhere. You scratch, your friends scratch. Even the royal wig makers are out of business. The phrase bad hair day takes on a whole new meaning. You try to keep your dignity, but it's hard when you're picking bugs out of your eyebrows during breakfast. And the hits keep coming. Swarms of flies, livestock dropping like flies, literally. Boils that make you look like you lost a fight with a beehive, and hail that shreds your crops and your last nerve. You're running out of clean clothes, clean water, and clean places to hide. The locusts show up next, eating everything that's not nailed down. You watch your garden disappear in a matter of minutes, and you start to wonder if you can survive on frog legs and boiled weeds. Then comes the darkness. Not just cloudy day darkness, but a thick, suffocating gloom that makes you lose track of time and hope. You bump into furniture, stub your toe, and start talking to your neighbor just to make sure you're not the last person left. The only thing more unsettling than the darkness is the silence, broken only by the distant sound of Pharaoh muttering about Moses and his magic tricks. Modern comparison. Imagine your worst Monday ever. Your coffee machine breaks, your commute is a disaster, your boss is in a mood, and your phone dies. Now multiply that by 10. Add a biblical sense of doom and throw in a few thousand frogs for good measure. Suddenly, your spilled latte doesn't seem so bad. The grand finale, the Passover night, when the firstborn in every Egyptian household is taken. It's tragic, terrifying, and finally enough to convince Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. You pack your bags, grab some unleavened bread, and hit the road, hoping the next place you land has fewer frogs and a lot more sunshine. So next time your week is rough, remember, at least your water's not blood, your bread's not full of bugs, and your neighbor's cow is still standing. Sometimes, a little perspective is the best miracle of all. You're herding sheep, minding your own business, when a bush bursts into flames and starts giving you orders. You'd think you were hallucinating, but nope. This is just Tuesday in the desert. Let's set the scene. You're Moses, former Egyptian prince turned humble shepherd, wandering the wilds of Midian. Your daily routine is pretty simple. Keep the sheep from wandering off cliffs, avoid stepping on scorpions, and try not to think too hard about your complicated past. The sun is blazing, the sand is everywhere, and the most exciting thing you expect to see is a particularly fluffy lamb. Then, out of nowhere, you spot it. A bush, absolutely engulfed in flames. But here's the twist. It's not burning up. No smoke, no crackling, just a steady, supernatural glow. You blink, rub your eyes, and check your water supply. Maybe you're dehydrated. Maybe you've been in the sun too long. But the bush is still there, still on fire. And now it's talking to you. In your own language, with perfect diction. The voice calls your name, twice. Moses, Moses. You freeze. The sheep freeze. Even the tumbleweeds pause to see what happens next. The bush tells you to take off your sandals. You're standing on holy ground. You look down at your dusty feet, then back at the bush, and try to remember if you're supposed to bow, salute, or just not run away screaming. Now, let's talk about the sensory overload. The heat of the desert, the blinding sunlight, the smell of sheep, and now the scent of burning. Nothing. The bush isn't turning to ash, and the flames don't even singe the leaves. It's like God's own special effect department is showing off. You're sweating, but not from the fire. More from the realization that you're about to have the weirdest conversation of your life. God lays it out. He's seen the suffering of the Israelites, and you, Moses, are the guy for the rescue mission. You try to protest. Wrong guy, bad at public speaking, not exactly hero material, but the bush isn't having it. God even gives you a few magic tricks. A staff that turns into a snake, a hand that goes leprous and then heals, and the promise that your brother Aaron can handle the speeches. It's the ultimate pep talk, delivered by a shrub. Modern comparison. Imagine you're mowing your lawn, and suddenly your hedge catches fire and starts giving you career advice. You check your coffee for mushrooms, right? But for Moses, this is just the start of a new chapter, one that involves plagues, parting seas, and a lot of walking. So you slip off your sandals, listen to the bush, and realize that sometimes the universe really does set things on fire just to get your attention. And if a shrub ever starts talking to you, maybe, just maybe, listen before you call it a day. You're making fun of a bald prophet, and suddenly 2 bears crash the party. Lesson learned. Never mock a man with a receding hairline or his God. Let's set the scene. You're a kid in ancient Israel, hanging out with your friends near the city of Bethel. The sun is shining. You've got nothing better to do. And then you spot Elisha, freshly minted prophet, successor to Elijah, and, notably, not blessed in the hair department. Maybe you're feeling bold. Maybe you're just bored. But you and your buddies start heckling him. Go up, you bald head. Go up. It's the ancient equivalent of trolling someone online, except you're doing it in person. And the Wi-Fi is terrible. Elisha, for his part, is just trying to mind his own business. He's on his way to do prophet things, miracles, blessings, maybe a little light smiting. But instead, he gets a chorus of preteen jeers about his shiny scalp. He stops, turns around, and gives you that look, the one every adult has when they're about to drop some serious consequences. You think he's going to yell, or maybe just ignore you. Instead, he calls down a curse in the name of the Lord. Cue the bears. Out of the woods lumber 2 she-bears, and suddenly, this is less youth group prank and more nature documentary gone wrong. The bears are not here for hugs or honey. The crowd scatters, but not everyone is fast enough. The story says 42 kids get mauled, which is a lot of kids and a lot of bear. You're left wondering if maybe, just maybe, you should have stuck to harmless pranks, like ding-dong ditching the local idol shop. Let's talk about the sensory experience. 1 minute, you're laughing with your friends. The next, you hear the unmistakable sound of twigs snapping and low growls. The air goes from light-hearted to run for your life in about 2 seconds. The ground shakes as the bears charge, and you realize that ancient Israel's version of "don't poke the bear" is a lot more literal than you thought. Modern comparison. Imagine roasting your teacher on TikTok, only to have 2 grizzly bears burst through your front door, or teasing your uncle about his bald spot, and suddenly the family dog decides to teach you a lesson. The moral is clear. Respect your elders, especially if they have a direct line to divine wildlife management. Elisha, meanwhile, dusts off his robe, adjusts his prophet credentials, and continues on his way, probably with a little extra spring in his step. The townsfolk learn a valuable lesson about respect, and you're just glad you made it home in one piece, with a newfound appreciation for both prophets and personal safety. So next time you're tempted to mock someone's hairline, remember, you never know what's lurking in the woods, and sometimes the punchline bites back. You're out by the river, chopping wood with your buddies, just another day on the ancient DIY squad. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and you're feeling pretty good about your lumberjack skills. There's only one problem. The axe you're swinging isn't even yours. You borrowed it, and you really don't want to be that guy who returns tools in pieces. Then it happens. Mid-swing, the axe head flies off, does a perfect Olympic dive, and disappears into the murky water with a splash. You freeze. Your friends stare. You're already rehearsing your apology speech and mentally calculating how many goats it'll take to buy a new one. Sensory overload. The river is cold and fast, the water's muddy, and your heart is pounding louder than your chopping ever was. Social dread. You can feel the judgment from your friends. Nice going, Butterfingers. Financial anxiety. That axe was expensive, and you're not exactly rolling in shekels. You run to Elisha, the local prophet, an all-around miracle guy. You explain your predicament, expecting maybe a pep talk or a lesson about responsibility. Instead, Elisha asks, "Where did it fall?" You point to the spot, and he tosses a stick into the water. Suddenly, The axe head floats to the surface like it's auditioning for a magic show. You fish it out, jaw on the floor, and your friends are just as stunned. Isaac Newton won't be born for another couple thousand years, but you're pretty sure he'd have some questions. Lost your phone in a lake? Imagine someone tossing in a twig and your phone floats up, fully charged. Dropped your keys down a storm drain. Prophet shows up, waves a stick, and boom, keys in hand. Miracles can be practical. Sometimes divine intervention isn't about fire from heaven or parting seas. It's about saving you from awkward conversations with the guy you borrowed tools from. Prophets. Not just for big stuff. Elisha could have been off curing leprosy or multiplying oil, but he took time to help you avoid a bad Yelp review from your neighbor. So next time you lose something important, remember, sometimes all it takes is a little faith, a helpful friend, and a stick. Take that, Isaac Newton. You're in the middle of a battle and you need more time. So you ask God to hit pause on the sun. Suddenly, it's daylight for way too long, and everyone's regretting not wearing sunscreen. You're Joshua, fearless leader of the Israelites, and you're deep in the heat of battle against a coalition of Amorite kings. The stakes are high, the adrenaline is pumping, and you're making serious progress. But as the sun starts to dip toward the horizon, you realize you're running out of daylight, and the enemy might just slip away under the cover of darkness. You look up, squinting into the fading light, and decide there's only one thing to do. Ask for a cosmic timeout. You pray, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and moon over the valley of Ajalon." Everyone pauses, mid-sword swing, wondering if you finally lost it. And then it happens. The sun just stops in the sky. No sunset, no twilight, just endless blazing daylight. The moon freezes in place and suddenly it's the world's longest afternoon. You've got all the time you need to finish the fight, but now you're also facing the world's most intense sunburn risk. Sight. The sky is stuck on high noon. Shadows don't move, the light is relentless, and you start to wonder if sunglasses will ever be invented. Feel. Sweat pours down your face. Your armor is basically a portable oven. You're pretty sure your sandals are melting. Sound. The battle rages on, but every so often someone mutters, "Is it just me, or is this the longest day ever?" Imagine you're at work, racing a deadline, and you wish for just a few more hours. Suddenly, your boss freezes the clock, and you're stuck in an endless loop of productivity and caffeine. Or picture a soccer game where the ref just refuses to blow the final whistle. Great if you're winning, not so much if you're out of breath. When the battle finally ends, you look around at your sunburned, exhausted troops and realize you've just witnessed one of the wildest miracles in history. The enemy is defeated, the day is finally allowed to end, and everyone collapses into the world's most well-earned nap. Sometimes, you really can ask for more time. Be careful what you wish for, especially if you forgot your SPF 50. So next time you're wishing for a longer day, remember Joshua, sometimes the sun stands still, and sometimes you just need a really good hat. You're down to your last drop of oil, but a prophet tells you to keep pouring. Suddenly, your kitchen is a miracle factory, and your neighbors are jealous of your bottomless olive oil. You're a widow in ancient Israel, and things are looking grim. The bills are piling up, the pantry's almost empty, and the only thing left in your kitchen is a tiny jar of olive oil. Barely enough for a salad, let alone a meal. To make matters worse, creditors are knocking at the door, threatening to take your kids as payment. You're desperate, anxious, and out of options, Enter Elisha, the local prophet with a reputation for making the impossible happen. You pour out your troubles, and instead of offering you a loaf of bread or a few coins, he gives you the world's strangest advice. Go borrow as many empty jars as you can from your neighbors. Don't ask for just a few, get a lot. Then go inside, shut the door, and start pouring your oil into the jars. You're skeptical, but desperate times call for desperate measures. You send your kids out on a jar collecting spree, and soon your house looks like the world's weirdest Tupperware party. You take a deep breath, pick up your tiny oil jar, and start pouring. One jar fills up, then another, and another. The oil just keeps coming, like you've tapped into a secret Mediterranean pipeline. Your kids are running back and forth, handing you jars, eyes wide with amazement. The kitchen floor is slick, your arms are tired, and you're starting to wonder if you should open a side business. Finally, you ask for another jar, but your kids shrug. There are none left. Instantly, the oil stops. You look around at the sea of full jars and realize you've just gone from nothing left to enough to pay the bills and then some. You sell the oil, settle your debts, and have enough left over to keep your family afloat. Sight. Jars everywhere glistening with golden oil. Sound. The gentle glug-glug of oil pouring, kids whispering in awe. Smell. The rich, earthy scent of fresh olive oil filling your home. Feel. Relief, gratitude, and maybe a little bit of take that, creditors. Imagine your bottle of cooking oil never runs out, no matter how many stir-fries or salad dressings you make, or your bank account refilling every time you pay a bill. Your neighbors start asking for your secret, and you just smile and shrug. After all, who would believe you? Sometimes miracles show up in the most ordinary places, like your kitchen. And when life feels empty, a little faith and a lot of borrowed jars can turn scarcity into abundance. Plus, you'll never have to buy olive oil again. Take that, Costco. You're bitten by a snake, and instead of a doctor, you get a bronze serpent on a stick. Look at it, and you're healed. Ignore it, and you're toast. Ancient healthcare at its finest. You're wandering the wilderness with the Israelites, and let's be honest, morale is low. The food is repetitive. See, manna. The scenery is endless sand, and everyone's patience is wearing thinner than your sandals. People start grumbling, again, and suddenly the camp is crawling with venomous snakes. Not garden variety, oh look, a little garter snake types, but the bite now, ask questions never kind. Panic sets in. People are getting bitten left and right. The first aid kit is just a jar of honey and some hope. You're sweating, limping, and wondering if this is how it all ends. Taken out by a snake in the middle of nowhere. Moses, ever the problem solver, goes to God for help. The solution, not a potion, not a poultice, not even a stern warning to the snakes. Instead, God tells Moses to craft a bronze serpent and stick it on a pole. Anyone who looks at it will live, God says. That's it. No copay, no waiting room, just a quick glance at the world's weirdest sculpture. So Moses gets to work. Soon, there's a shiny bronze snake glinting in the desert sun, hoisted high for all to see. The instructions are simple. Get bitten. Look at the bronze serpent. Get healed. Try not to get bitten again. Visual. The sun glinting off the bronze. The crowd gathered around. The snake slithering everywhere. Emotional. Equal parts skepticism. Really, just look at it. And desperation. What have I got to lose? Physical. The sting of the bite. The rush of relief as the pain fades. The awkward moment when you realize you're staring at a giant snake statue in your pajamas. Imagine you're at the ER with a snake bite, and instead of a doctor, the nurse wheels in a giant bronze sculpture and says, "Just look at this for a minute." No paperwork, no insurance, just a stare down with a metal reptile. It's the ultimate trust the process moment. Ancient healthcare was wild. Sometimes the cure wasn't a medicine or a miracle drug, but a leap of faith and a willingness to look up when you'd rather look away. So next time you're feeling under the weather, remember, it could be worse. You could be relying on a bronze snake on a stick. And hey, at least you don't have to worry about the deductible. You're a baby, and your mum puts you in a basket and floats you down the Nile. It's the original river cruise, complete with crocodiles and a very confused princess. Ancient Egypt. Pharaoh's got a new policy. All Hebrew baby boys must go. It's a rough time to be a newborn. Your mum, desperate to save you, gets creative. She weaves a waterproof basket, tucks you in, and sets you afloat on the Nile. Forget strollers. This is the ultimate go-with-the-flow parenting. The Nile, wide, muddy, and teeming with life. Some friendly, frogs. Some not so much, crocodiles. The basket, cozy, surprisingly buoyant, and probably smells like reeds and hope. The baby, that's you, Moses. Tiny, swaddled, and blissfully unaware that you're starring in the world's first river adventure. Mum's perspective, heart-pounding. She hides in the reeds, watching and praying. Sister Miriam, hiding nearby, ready to jump in if things go sideways. The river, gently rocking you, occasionally bumping into a hippo or two. The crocodiles, eyeing you, but apparently not hungry for miracle babies today. Enter Pharaoh's daughter, out for a royal bath. She spots the basket, opens it, and, surprise, finds a crying baby. Instead of calling security, she's instantly smitten. Miriam pops out of hiding and offers to fetch a Hebrew nurse, aka your actual mum. Pharaoh's daughter agrees, and just like that, you're back home. Now with royal protection and a pretty wild origin story. Lost at the mall. Imagine your mum putting you in a shopping cart, sending you down the escalator, and you end up adopted by the store manager. Baby Moses. The only kid who can say his first ride was a luxury cruise with a crocodile side-eye. Sometimes desperate times call for creative solutions. You never know who's watching out for you or hiding in the reeds. And if you ever feel adrift, remember, you might just be on your way to something big. So next time you see a basket floating by, give it a second look. You never know if there's a future leader inside, just waiting for their story to begin. You're at the hottest party in Babylon, King Belshazzar's royal feast. The wine is flowing, the music is bumping, and everyone's feeling a little too confident. The king, looking to impress, decides to break out the sacred gold and silver goblets looted from the Jerusalem temple. Because nothing says good time like drinking out of holy relics, right? Suddenly, the vibe shifts. Out of nowhere, a disembodied hand appears and starts writing on the plaster wall. No body, no face, just a floating hand, like something out of a supernatural thriller. The music screeches to a halt. Goblets clatter to the floor. The king's face goes from life of the party to saw a ghost in 0.2 seconds. The room, once filled with laughter, now dead silent except for the scratch of supernatural graffiti. The king, knees knocking, face pale, probably wishing he'd stuck to water. The guests, frozen, staring at the wall, wondering if they should run or just pretend they didn't see anything. The hand writes 4 mysterious words. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Nobody knows what it means. The king calls in every wise man, astrologer, and dream interpreter in Babylon. But they're all stumped. Enter Daniel, the go-to guy for divine mysteries. Daniel reads the writing and drops the bad news. Many. God has numbered your days. Your kingdom is over. Tekel. You've been weighed and found wanting. Parsin. Your kingdom will be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Translation. Party's over, Belshazzar. You're done. Office party. Imagine you're at the company holiday bash, and suddenly a glowing hand writes, "You're fired," on the wall in front of everyone. House party. You're mid-toast, and Alexa starts announcing your deepest secrets to the whole room. That very night, Belshazzar loses his kingdom and his life. The Medes and Persians roll in, and Babylon's wildest party becomes its last. Don't mess with sacred stuff. If a hand appears out of nowhere, pay attention. Sometimes the writing's literally on the wall. So next time you're at a party and things get weird, just be glad the only thing writing on the wall is your friend with a Sharpie. You're wandering the desert with the Israelites. And let's be honest, manna is getting old. Sure, it was cool at first. Bread from heaven, daily delivery, no need for a grocery list. But after weeks, okay, years, of the same bland breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you start dreaming of anything else. Steak, chicken, even a decent falafel. So you and your fellow campers start grumbling. If only we had meat. Remember Egypt? At least we had fish and cucumbers. God hears the complaints and decides to give you exactly what you asked for, and then some. You, hungry, cranky, and ready to trade your last sandal for a chicken wing. The camp, filled with the sound of collective whining and stomachs growling in harmony. The sky suddenly darkens, not with rain, but with a cloud of birds. Quail, to be exact. Thousands of them, flapping and squawking, descending on the camp like feathery manna 2.0. The birds land everywhere. You don't even have to hunt. You just reach out and grab dinner. Soon, you're knee-deep in quail, literally. The Bible says they piled up about 3 feet deep all around the camp. It's a meat lover's dream, until it isn't. Sensory overload. The air is thick with feathers, the ground is slick with bird droppings, and the smell. Let's just say it's not exactly fresh rotisserie. Everyone's eating, roasting, boiling, stuffing themselves silly. It's like Thanksgiving, but with way more indigestion and way less gratitude. Just as everyone's patting their bellies and congratulating themselves on their menu upgrade, things take a turn. The overeating leads to a plague, let's call it quail regret syndrome. Suddenly, the camp is filled with moaning, not from hunger, but from too much of a good thing. Ever binge on Halloween candy and regret it? Multiply that by 1,000. Ordered too much at an all-you-can-eat buffet. Now imagine the buffet comes to you and you can't escape. Be careful what you wish for. Sometimes the thing you crave most isn't as great as you imagined, especially when it comes in bulk. Gratitude matters. Miracles are cool, but so is appreciating what you already have, even if it's just manna. So next time you're tempted to complain about what's for dinner, remember the great quail overload. Sometimes too much of a good thing is, well, too much. You wake up with a suspicious rash, and suddenly you're living outside the city with a bunch of other itchy people. No hugs, no handshakes, just a lot of shouting unclean at anyone who gets too close. It's a regular morning until you notice a weird spot on your skin. You try to ignore it, but it spreads. Next thing you know, you're at the priest's office, ancient Israel's version of urgent care, and he's giving you that look. Diagnosis? Leprosy? Treatment plan? Pack your bags because you're moving out. Location: outside the city walls, far from family, friends, and anything resembling a decent meal. Social life: Your new crew is a bunch of equally spotty, scratchy folks. No high fives, no fist bumps, just a lot of awkward waving from a distance. Communication. If anyone comes near, you have to shout, "Unclean, unclean." It's the original 6 feet apart, but with more yelling and less hand sanitizer. Wardrobe, torn clothes, messy hair, and a covered upper lip. Basically, you look like you just survived a zombie apocalypse. Itchiness, off the charts. Loneliness, also off the charts. Hope, in short supply, unless a miracle working prophet or a certain wandering rabbi comes by. COVID-19 lockdown. Swap Zoom calls for shouting across a field and masks for full-on exile. Allergy season, but instead of tissues, you get a tent and a lifetime ban from the city bakery. Community. Misery loves company, and you do make some friends, just don't expect any hugs. Miracle potential. If you hear rumors about a healer in town, you and your crew are first in line, from a safe distance, of course. Sometimes life throws you a rash and a relocation notice. Ancient lepers were the OG experts in social distancing. No hugs, no handshakes, just a lot of shouting and hoping for healing. Next time you're stuck at home with a cold, remember, at least you don't have to yell "unclean" at the pizza delivery guy. Compassion matters. And so does a good skincare routine. You're building a tower to the heavens, but suddenly nobody can understand each other. The world's first language barrier, and the last time anyone volunteers for construction duty. It's post-flood, and humanity is feeling ambitious. Everyone speaks the same language, teamwork is at an all-time high, and someone suggests, let's build a tower that reaches the sky. It's the ultimate group project. No PowerPoint required, just bricks, mortar, and a shared dream of touching the clouds. The worksite is buzzing. People are hauling bricks, mixing mortar, and arguing about whether the tower should have a rooftop garden or a celestial observation deck. Spirits are high, and the tower keeps climbing higher and higher. You're pretty sure you're about to invent the world's first skyscraper and possibly the world's first elevator pitch. But up in heaven, God is watching and thinking, if these humans can do this together, who knows what they'll try next? So in a move that would make any project manager sweat, God scrambles everyone's language. 1 minute you're asking for more bricks, the next you're getting handed a goat. Your co-worker starts speaking in what sounds like Klingon, and the foreman is suddenly fluent in interpretive dance. Sound. The worksite erupts into a cacophony of confusion, shouting, gesturing, and a lot of "huh?" Sight. Bricks are dropped, tools are abandoned, and the tower stands half-finished, a monument to miscommunication. Feel. Frustration, bewilderment, and the sinking realization that this project is officially doomed. Imagine a group project where, halfway through, everyone's Google Translate malfunctions, or a Zoom call where every participant is suddenly speaking a different language. The deadline is looming, but nobody can even agree on what deadline means anymore. The tower is abandoned, the people scatter across the earth, and Babel becomes synonymous with confusion. The world gets its first taste of language barriers, and you get a great excuse to never sign up for construction duty again. Ambition is great, but communication is key. Sometimes the real miracle is just understanding each other. So next time your group project falls apart, just remember, at least you didn't invent every language on earth in one afternoon. Babel, proof that sometimes too many cooks and too many languages really do spoil the broth. You're trapped between an army and a body of water, but Moses lifts his staff and suddenly you're walking on dry land. Just don't stop to collect seashells. You're an Israelite, fresh out of Egypt after generations of slavery. Freedom tastes sweet until you look over your shoulder and see Pharaoh's army thundering after you, chariots gleaming in the sun. In front of you, the Red Sea stretching out like an impossible barrier. Behind you, certain doom. The group panic is real. Someone's already suggesting you should have stayed in Egypt for the leeks and onions. Moses, calm as ever, or at least pretending to be, steps up. He lifts his staff over the water, and suddenly the wind howls. The sea splits in two, walls of water rising up on either side like the world's most dramatic aquarium. The seabed appears dry as a desert, and Moses gives the ancient equivalent of a traffic cop's wave. All right, everyone, single file, keep it moving. Sensory experience. Sight, towering walls of water, fish peeking out. Maybe a confused octopus waving hello. Sound, the roar of wind, the slap of sandals on wet sand, the distant shouts of Egyptian soldiers. Feel, cool mist on your face, adrenaline in your veins, and the urge to not look up in case the water changes its mind. Imagine you're stuck in gridlock on a bridge and someone parts the river so you can walk across the riverbed to safety. No tolls, no traffic, just a miraculous shortcut. Or picture the ultimate emergency exit sign lighting up when you need it most. You make it to the other side, heart pounding, feet muddy but dry. The Egyptians charge in after you, but as soon as the last Israelite steps out, Moses lowers his staff. The waters crash back, swallowing the army and sealing your escape. You're safe, free, and suddenly very aware that you've just witnessed one of history's greatest miracles. When you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, or an army and a sea, sometimes the only way out is through. Trust your traffic controller, especially if he comes with a staff and a track record of plagues. So next time you're facing an impossible obstacle, remember, with a little faith and the right leader, even the sea might make way for you. Just don't dawdle. There's no time for seashell souvenirs. You're bored, Moses is late, and someone suggests making a golden cow. Next thing you know, you're dancing around a statue and regretting all your life choices. Ancient peer pressure at its finest. You're an Israelite, fresh out of Egypt, camping at the foot of Mount Sinai. Moses, your fearless leader, has gone up the mountain to have a chat with God. He's been gone for days, 40 days to be exact. The suspense is killing you. The desert sun is relentless, the food is repetitive, and everyone's getting restless. You start to wonder, did Moses get lost? Did he ditch us? Is he ever coming back? With Moses MIA, the crowd gets antsy. Someone pipes up, "Hey, remember all those shiny gold earrings we took from Egypt? Let's melt them down and make a god we can actually see." Aaron, Moses' brother and temporary leader, caves to the pressure faster than you can say, "Bad idea." He collects the gold, fires up the forge, and voila, a golden calf is born. Suddenly, it's party time. People are singing, dancing, and celebrating around the golden calf like it's the world's weirdest music festival. There's feasting, revelry, and a whole lot of questionable decision-making. You're swept up in the crowd, but deep down, you know this is a terrible idea. You just didn't want to be the only one not having fun. Sight, the golden calf gleaming in the sun, crowds swirling, dust rising from all the dancing. Sound, drums, laughter, shouts, and the clinking of jewelry. Smell, roasting meat, sweat, and maybe a hint of regret. Feel, the heat of the fire, the press of the crowd, and a growing sense of oh. Just as the party hits its peak, Moses comes down the mountain, stone tablets in hand. He sees the chaos, the calf, and the crowd, and he is not impressed. In a fit of righteous rage, He smashes the tablets, grinds the golden calf into powder, and makes everyone drink it. Yes, really, ancient consequences were wild. Imagine your boss leaves for a month, and the office decides to throw a wild party, build a statue out of company laptops, and live stream the whole thing. When the boss returns, let's just say nobody's getting a bonus. Peer pressure is powerful. Even grown adults can make questionable choices when everyone else is doing it. Patience is hard, especially when you're waiting for answers, leadership, or direction. Regret is real. Sometimes the thing that seemed fun in the moment becomes a cautionary tale for generations. So next time you're tempted to follow the crowd, remember the golden calf. Sometimes waiting it out is better than dancing around a bad idea.